Call the meeting to order. If you'll all please rise for the invocation by Supervisor Watson and the Pledge of Allegiance by Supervisor Sockwell.
Heavenly Father, on this day before the general election, we give special thanks and ask for your blessings for the men and women who fight to preserve our liberty and our right to vote. Instill in all of us the importance of this duty and give us the wisdom in casting our ballots. Please watch over those victims of Hurricane Sandy as they struggle to rebuild their lives and their communities. Amen.
Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to call for an executive session to be held December 3rd at 9 a.m.
So moved.
Second the motion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Committee or legislative reports. Supervisor Sockwell, do you
I
have?
have nothing this morning.
Supervisor Watson?
Nothing this morning.
Manager Hendricks, do you have a county manager's report?
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing this morning. Thank you.
We have an approval of September 11th, 17th, and October 18th BOS meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'd like to ask our library director, Danielle Kroll, to come forward for a presentation.
Good morning, Supervisor Johnson, Supervisor Sockwell, Supervisor Watson, and Mr. Hendricks, Mr. Ekstrom, and Ms. Prince. I'm delighted to be here today, and especially to recognize one of our staff members, Mike Massey, who is unfortunately retiring after 22 years with Mohave County Library District. So I'd like to read a statement that his supervisor, Bruce Carter, and his staff worked up. Mike Massey has been with the Mohave County Library District since 1990. He began as a part-time shelver at $4 per hour, 6 days a week, 2 hours per day. Going into his 22nd year, Mike is retiring with the title of Library Specialist. Mike has always had a can-do attitude and stepped up to meeting the organization's goals and has been instrumental in the library's success. Early into working for the library, Mike's unique abilities were noticed by supervisory staff as he worked as a library cataloger for some time, and he ends his library career as the go-to person for our integrated library system, which is CIRCE. But Mike has been much more than that for the library and the patrons of our county. He has shown uncanny troubleshooting skills, not just for the CIRCE system, but also for anything dealing with servers, computers, and phone lines. Needless to say, Mike will be sorely missed, and best of luck to you, Mike Massey. So Supervisor Johnson, if you could acknowledge Mr. Massey.
Started at 76. It's 36. I just don't move very fast.
We'll now move to the consent. So it'll be items 5 through 43. Item 37 has been pulled. Supervisor Sockwell, do you have any items you'd like to pull off?
I have nothing.
Supervisor Watson?
Item 21.
I would like to pull 12 and 16, so I would need a motion to approve the consent, items 5 through 43 minus 12, 16, 21, and 37, which has been pulled.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, motion carries. I would make a motion on item number 12 for discussion.
Second the motion.
Thank you, Supervisor Watson. I would like to continue this till our December meeting. This is the approving the proposed settlement of North Point Mohave County Property Tax Valuation Appeal. The settlement provides for reduction in full cash value of $1.9 million to $230,000. It's a tremendous amount of drop for a 92.33 acre parcel. And if nobody has any objections, just give me a time to look into it a little more. Would that be okay with you too, Supervisor Sockwell? I'll make a
I have no
motion.
problem
Can
with that.
I would make a motion then just to continue this till the December meeting.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item number 16 was mine. I would make a motion for discussion.
Second.
Do we have anybody here from, is Ms. Director Mead here? Just want to thank Director Mead and the site councils. It looks like you've, especially with the economy dropping down, you've brought in quite a bit of money on donations into the senior centers in Havasu and Golden Shore so far. Looks like.
Yes, sir, Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Sockwell, Supervisor Watson. That is completely as a result of the site councils. They are definitely an excellent partner for us.
That's over, what, $19,824.07?
Yes, in
So
the
that's
Havas.
really good, and I think the board members would probably, we wish to thank them for, helping us out with the seniors.
I will definitely let them know. And as you saw on one of the other agenda items, we got an additional almost $13,000 from WACOG for senior.
That's great, thank
So
you.
That's great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have a motion for approval of 16?
Motion for approval.
Second the motion.
Motion is second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item number 21, we have somebody signed up, Supervisor Watson.
Motion for discussion, please.
Second.
A motion and a second. You want to hear the person first?
Sure.
Cindy Cox?
Good morning, Supervisor Sockwell, Chairman Johnson, Supervisor Watson, Mr. Hendricks, Mr. Ekstrom, and Ms. Prince. Thank you very much for letting me speak this morning. I just wanted to have a conversation about item number 21 as far as extending the contract for the for an additional period for the Grant Street Group out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, for the tax lien auction. I believe that we should hold off on this because January 1st, 2013, I believe is, the 2nd, is when I will become the treasurer, and I'd like to have the option to look at other places for the possibility. Part of this stems from the fact that a year ago, we paid, the tax lien holders paid $7 a parcel, and a 30% increase of $10 a parcel lowered the sales revenue tremendously by about $2 million. So I'd like to look at other options for that, and also possibly bring that to Mohave County, because I believe our dollars belong in Mohave County and not in Pennsylvania. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Supervisor Watson?
Have any other?
Go ahead. I believe that was the only person signed up.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chairman Johnson. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak on this issue. I certainly have a deep feeling that we need to certainly listen to the newly elected and their desire to serve. And I think it would be appropriate for us to just continue continue this item until January if we possibly can, but with that, there may be a problem. Is there someone who can address the fact that if this contract needs to be extended, what is the latest date we can extend that contract?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Watson, unfortunately, Annie, our procurement director, is not here today, and in the instructions she left me, in case there were questions on this, she did not cover that particular topic, but since it's a renewal that begins December 31st, I would presume that's when our current contract ends. If we were to look at not renewing this contract, we would have to do a full procurement, which would include an RFP for the services, and would probably take 2 or 3 months to have this ready to bring back to the board. This contract that we're currently in has extension provisions that this motion would be exercising that extension provision. And it's my understanding that the cost to the county is zero, but as was pointed out, the person on the tax lien actually pays the fee, which would go from $7 to $10.
Thank you, Mr. Timko. Chairman Johnson, I'd like to make a motion that we continue this item until our next meeting in December. Maybe we can get some clarification as to just how long it would take to put an RFP out. If we need to
I
make-
second the motion.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I believe that is it for the consent. We did have, somebody had signed up for item 27. They were in favor. It did pass, so you got your wish. Item number 44 is a public hearing which I will open. Discussion possible action considering adoption of Mohave County Ordinance 2012-06, providing requirements for semi-public, public swimming pools and bathing places to be effective November 5th, 2012. I have no one signed up. Is there anyone here who wishes to address
Make a
the
motion
board?
to approve.
Chief Deputy McCabe, did you wish to address the board on the bathing? On the bathing issue? I saw you get up. No? Supervisor Sockwell, I'll close the public hearing. Supervisor Sockwell, do you have a motion?
Had a motion to approve on item 44.
Second the motion.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 45 is a public hearing which I'll open. Discussion, possible action, consider adoption of revisions to Mohave County Ordinance 2011-06, providing requirements for refuge haulers and septic pumper trucks haulers to be effective November 5th, 2012. I have no one signed up for that. Is there anybody here who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 46 is a public hearing, which I will open. Consider adoption of revisions to Mohave County Ordinance 2007-09, providing public health and sanitation requirements for public accommodations to be effective November 5th, 2012. I have no one signed up for that. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Do we have a motion on item number 46?
Motion to approve.
Second the motion.
A motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 47 is a public hearing which I will open. Consider adoption and revisions to Mohave County Ordinance 05-04, providing requirements for inspection of food service establishments and rated card postings for public viewings to be effective November 5th, 2012. I have no one signed up for that. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 48 is a public hearing, which I will open. Discussion, possible action, consider adoption of revisions to Mohave County Ordinance 98-10, providing requirements for mandatory food handling training to be effective November 5th, 2012. I have no one signed up. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 49 is a public hearing. Discussion, possible action, adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolutions 2012-153. I have one person signed up. It is a public hearing, so Mr. Jim Robinson.
Jim Robinson, 20,495 Cessna Drive, White Hills, Triangle Airport. And I oppose this. I know that it's just too close to the airport area, the Triangle Airport area there, to be a very good place for a helicopter operation.
Thank you. Any questions of the gentleman? None? Thank you, sir. There's no one else. Wait a minute. Mr. Walt Stout?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Walt Stout. I reside at 20496 North Mooney Drive, Triangle Air Park. I represent Boulder City Aero Club and the Triangle Air Park. We're in opposition to this helipad and strictly on a safety basis. It is just too close to our traffic patterns and landing areas. It's not a good idea. Somebody's going to get injured. There's no traffic control out there, and it's going to be a problem. I request that you do not approve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have a Dan. Well, Dan, you've got me on your last name here. You can come up and introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Dan Dufresne, rhymes with insane, and I live at 20209 North Comanche Drive at Triangle Air Park. I'm a full-time resident at Triangle, and I fly in and out of there frequently. And I oppose this for the same reasons the last speaker did. It's a safety issue. It's right on the end of our runway, right near our flight path onto runway 17. We have enough to worry about with the 50 caliber bullets they're shooting by us, but added this helicopter business to it. It seems like it's going to be an accident waiting to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have no one else signed up. Is there anybody else who would like to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion for discussion, please.
Second.
Motion and second. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. We met at great length with both folks from the air park and from the applicant, and in viewing the entire situation, I was uncomfortable with authorizing the helipad, but then pointed out by other folks that in many areas of the United States, there's a considerable amount of helicopter traffic at airports. So in looking at the possible safety ramifications in that, there was a notification to the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, and the FAA has submitted the following a number of conditions that would be prevailing over this item if we were to prove it today. I can go through the entire list, but it has a number of items in which it directly relates to safety items, and the FAA is quite aware of the fact that it will be in that position and in conjunction with the air park. So my motion today would be to approve this item along with the conditions as set forth by the Federal Aviation Administration, and I can provide a copy with.
I second the motion.
The question I would have, Chris, do we have any problem with doing that?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I believe your resolution states that the applicant will comply with all requirements of the FAA.
Okay,
So,
so it'd be in there then for,
And we'll add these as an addendum.
that sounds good. So we have a motion and a second. There's no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item number 50 is a public hearing, which I will open. Adoption Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-154, extension of time for a rezone. This is in Yucca, I believe is there anybody here who wishes to address the board? Had no one signed up. I will close the public hearing. Ms. Ballard, do you have a recommendation from staff this time? This is the one that was continued. I continued over, right?
yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the department is recommending that the board continue the request for a rezone for Rocky Point. The reasons being is that the applicant has provided a request for extension. Also, prior to the commission's recommendation, the applicant did not address the commission. They were not present to do so. The letter indicates some issues with financing, which goes along with the economy that we had at that we've had in the last several years, and at the point of time when they ceased to work with us. They do have a number of items complete out there, both engineering and items on the ground, including 2 wells. This department does recommend, however, there is a fee for extension of time. We do ask that they be required to pay for that fee.
Sounds good. It's the pleasure of the board. I guess I pulled it off. I would make a motion to approve the extension of time for rezone with the filing of fees with the Planning and Zoning Department.
Second. I'll second
Okay.
that.
A motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 51 is a public hearing, which I will open. Adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-164, naming a new road. I have no one signed up on this. Is there anybody here who wishes to address the board? See no one, I will close the public hearing. It's the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve.
Second the motion?
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 52 is a public hearing, which I'll open. Adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-161, a rezone. Commissioner recommended approval by unanimous vote. I have no one signed up for 52. Anybody here wish to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve.
Second the motion?
You have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 53 is a public hearing, which I will open. Adoption Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-165 for a rezone. Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. I do have a email submitted by Stephen Etheridge, Associate Broker, Century 21, Colorado River Realty, 1137 Highway 95, Bullhead City, Arizona. I will be contesting the 7,000 square foot minimum lot size. The notice on property and the letter sent by mail does not state lot size. The size lots will just extend the subdivision to the west side of parcel with more lower-end housing. The lot size should be at least to the La Borgata that is directly north, and that has infrastructure and no housing lot size. I would like this submitted to the Mohave County Board of Supervisors meeting today. If it makes it to Planning and Zoning public hearing, I request to speak at that meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board? See no one, I will close the public hearing. Do Do we have a motion on item number 53?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second for discussion. The question I would have is, Ms. Ballard, what is the smallest lot size we have in the county now?
Mr. Chairman, the RO and R1 zones, the smallest lot size is 6,000 square feet. It is possible to do a planned development with smaller lot sizes. That does go through a more intensive review process.
It seemed like a while back, might have been a few years, we voted on keeping lot size. Was it 6,000? Because it seemed like I thought 8,000 was the number that stuck in my mind, but it's 6,000 what we have?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, yes, it's 6,000 square feet.
That's the only question I had. Do we have a motion or just a motion for discussion, Ms. Clerk? Motion. We had a motion, okay. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 54 is a public hearing which I will open adoption of Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-166 zoning use permit on the Triangle Air Park. Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. It is a public hearing and it is open. I do have people signed up. Mr. Walt Stout.
I believe there's also a presentation this morning.
Oh, okay. Would you like to, there's a presentation on this. Would you like to wait to address the board after the presentation, sir?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Do we have a presentation to go with this?
Wasn't there?
Is this Mr. Craig?
Mm-hmm.
Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Lance Craig, and I'm here representing my brother Mark Craig, and his address is Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, and the lot number is 317-54033. We have a written record, which we've submitted, and then I would ask the PowerPoint presentation, and that be submitted as part of the record as well. Thank you.
I have that loaded with you this morning.
We'll have our IT put up, he has a stick with the information on it.
Is this the item you're running? The Triangle Park?
Yes.
Good to go?
Guess press play then, we have no control up here.
I'm gonna basically have to run it for you
Okay.
as you go
Okay.
through the slides. Here's the second slide. So are you gonna talk about it, or?
Possibly Mr. Crick would join you at the podium and explain it.
It's just photos. Okay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, not at this time during the public hearing. We can call you back up if we have some questions, sir. Mr. Waldstelt?
My name is Walt Stout. I live at Triangle Air Park, 20496 North Mooney, White Hills. I would like you to approve this EUP as filed. It is necessary to affirm the position of the airport and to continue operations as an airport. We had one rescinded some time ago because of the verbiage, and this is the replacement ZUP for this, and it is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Kathy Taggett Hicks?
Good morning, Honorable Chairman, Supervisors. My name is Kathy Tackett Hicks. I'm acting as the owner's agent on well over two-thirds majority property owners in this park. For any property owner to oppose the ZUP is nonsensical. The ZUP reestablishes the legal framework for them to use the air parks for landing fields, and is required. The county has wanted them to do this for some time. We need to get the approval for the zoning use permit to protect everyone in that air park. The slideshow was interesting. I think the issue is more personal than realistic for the air part, and I'll be happy to address some of those zoning issues excuse me, on the next item, which is actually the rezone. Please approve the ZUP to help every property owner in the Triangle Air Park. If you have any questions, I'm happy to respond.
Thank you. Mr. George Cummings?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Watson, Supervisor Sockwell. I'm here representing Mr. Robert Draney, who owns 3 lots in the subdivision. I've got a couple of photos that I want to go ahead and see if I can put up for you. You've seen some of this in the slideshow presentation as well. We oppose the specifics that were put in the use permit as approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission, although we do agree that something needs to be done. Our objection was aimed at the particular details of that. And we have, I guess, basic items here. First of all, anything that's done needs to be conditioned on cleaning up and getting these kinds of things into compliance with whatever you ultimately decide to do. It needs to be made conditional. Second thing is, a whole bunch of the issue here relates to cargo containers. And there was a lot of discussion at the Planning and Zoning Commission about the staff recommendation there. And after hearing the discussion, Ms. Ballard's explanation, I understood where some of the confusion came from. Staff basically has adopted a position that says if you convert the cargo containers into structures, you're going to need to get building permits, and they're going to count against your density the same way building permits do. And we understand that. That also means, though, if you don't use them as structures, they're going to be like cargo containers are treated in other residential areas in the county, which means they count against your open lot storage. What the applicants want is a free pass, basically no limits on the cargo containers that are out there. And that's not consistent with aircraft uses, and as you can see from the amount of violation, not consistent with the whole neighborhood. I mean, those are kind of the big items that are the focal point here. Technical points. They've also got an application still pending at the commission for a manufacturing zoning that covers at least the violating parcels. There were statements made at the commission that had been dropped and withdrawn, but I haven't seen where that's formally been done. And now we've got this problem of sort of conflicting and competing applications. If that one was in fact turned down, there'd be a ban against even bringing this one before you for another year. At the very least, I think this needs to be put off another month so the commission can act on whatever it's going to do with the manufacturing one if it's still pending, or for it to formally be withdrawn so that we don't have this conflict in sort of competing zoning applications by some of the same people on some of the same parcels. If you don't clean that up, I've got an argument, if this goes down the road, that there was no jurisdiction for anybody to act on anything. And that's really not going to be conducive to cleaning up the problems. And I think the way this board addresses that is by, putting things off another month to get that item back and then consolidate them and deal with them at the same time. We had specific requests for a slightly more restrictive density requirement. They want 40%. We thought 25% would be adequate to accommodate a residence and a hangar. I mean, on the size of these parcels, they're basically about 2-acre parcels. That's plenty of room to have a residence and a hangar. 40%, awful big, and you've got a building, you're going to be putting structures up for more than just, hangaring your Cessna. We thought 1,500 feet of open storage was adequate. They want 2,000. That's a question of degree. I think that's sort of a midway between where these lots fall and the requirements. Those are the kinds of things that we objected to. We think the idea is okay, but the particulars of how they want to implement it are over-expansive. And understand, you're establishing the default baseline for the neighborhood. If somebody's got a specific use or a specific structure or a specific aircraft that needs to be something else done with, they can always come back and seek, an additional modification or something that relates to their property alone. That's our basic item. One big point, though, kind of goes back to the last item. The FAA items for the heliport, I've seen those. It contemplates something more substantial at Triangle Air Park than I think is there. There's a lot of discussion about coordinating radio frequencies, and if I read it right, it only recognizes there being one runway, not two. If you do this, you're going to have two runways, one of which, the one that runs east-west, is going to run into that state highway, and I don't see any report back from ADOT as to what they think about that. If that's going to be used as a runway, it seems to me ADOT needs to have a voice in what's going to go on here, because you're going to be, probably not taking off, but there's certainly going to be a prospect of landing across that state highway. I've drifted a little bit into the next item, but I think that is the essence of what we're here about. One, I don't think you can act right now because there are some procedural items that need to be cleaned up. Secondly, I think you need to get some input, at least from ADOT, if not the FAA, because something's not matching up here. And thirdly, whatever you do with density, open lot storage, needs to be a requirement that the lots get into compliance before the new procedures go into effect. And the last item is we've provided you in writing proposed language on how to refine staff's cargo requirement so that it makes sense, treating structures as structures and establishing standards that would be consistent with the rest of the way residential areas are treated. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lance Krigg?
Morning, sir. I already submitted on this item.
All right. Mr. John Altentop?
My name is John Altentop. I live in the Triangle Air Park. I'm a commercial pilot, and I owned an airport prior to this one. I think you should recommend your commission's recommendations, all of it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Robert McBride?
Good morning. I'm Robert McBride. I live at 20496 North Cessna at Triangle Air Park. And again, I'm confused because I'm not an attorney, and 90% of what Mr. Cummings stated has nothing to do with the zoning use permit, as you can well entertain. However, he did mention that we have a runway that runs into the highway, and that is true. It also runs uphill. Now, if any of you folks are pilots or have been in flying, you've never seen anybody take off uphill and into power lines. That is absolutely suicidal and ridiculous. We do use it for landing occasionally when the wind's out of the west, and we will take off on it when it's coming out of the east. So there's no obstruction there. We don't have to wait for ADOC to tell us that, yeah, it's there. It's a fact. It's an alternate runway and only used at specific weather conditions. And I would support wholeheartedly the zoning use permit as is directed. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jim Robinson?
Jim Robinson, 20,495 Cessna. And I also would like to see the commission move to approve as commission recommended.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bruce Barton?
Yeah, my name is Bruce Barton. I live at 20496 North Cessna, Triangle Air Park. And I hope to get it approved as the commissioners recommended with no changes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Dan Dufresne.
Good morning again, Commissioners. I'd just like to, I'm a resident there, and I'd just like to approve this ZUP as well. I'd like to also reiterate what Bobby has already said, that runway is the only thing that applies on this issue, I think. And that is a crosswind strip. Almost every airport has one. They're used in extreme weather conditions, meaning high winds. So a high wind, if you're landing on a short runway and a high wind, it shortens the runway even more. So there's nothing wrong with that runway. I've landed on it on dozens of times. I do not regard it as a safety issue. And like Bobby said, I'd never take off uphill into power lines. That's crazy. I'd also like to add that ADOT was aware of that runway there when they did their expansion. So they approved it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Jack Burns?
Good morning. My name is Jack Burns, and I live at the Triangle Air Park at 20414 North Comanche Drive. And I would like to request that you approve our request for a zoning use permit of the airfield for aircraft operations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Robert Bob Draney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Supervisors. My name is Bob Draney. I live in Boulder City, and I own 3 lots at Triangle. I have a large hangar at 20413 North Cessna Drive. Mr. Cummings has represented me and has stated our concerns. Not that we're against rezoning, but or the special use zoning, but specific parts of it that we object to. I am concerned, and if I may revert back to item, the previous item on the helipad, it was stated that there were coordination of radio frequencies. Is that because radio frequencies are not required in our zoning environment. It's an uncontrolled airport. So there cannot be any coordination of radio frequencies according to the FARs. But anyway, Mr. Cummings has stated my position on the special use. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody left that lives in the Triangle Air Park that would like to address the board? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion for discussion from the board?
Motion for discussion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Supervisor Watson.
Thank you, Chairman Johnson. At issue are two grave concerns of mine. Number one, the condition of the storage in several of the areas there, somewhat appalling. I'd like to ask Chris, if I could, the number of notice of violations that have been put forth for that area?
Supervisor Watson, just before she answers, could you also tell us the size of the piece of property so people have an idea that we're looking at?
I believe it's 2.5 acres.
The whole thing, that's it? That's
Oh, no, the one I'm
right,
discussing.
but I mean the whole the air park, just for clarification.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I don't know exactly what the acreage is for the entire air park. The parcels generally run from a little over an acre to a little over 2 acres in size.
It's in excess of 200.
Oh, and next, okay, I didn't see it in the back. Oh, thank you.
In response to Mr. Watson's question, we have had 12 cases in Triangle Air Park. All are being pursued according to department rules and policies. I know we've closed some of those, so they are in conformance. I cannot tell you how many remain open.
Okay. My next question, Ms. Ballard, would be, if we were to adopt today, when would these properties be forced to be in compliance?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Watson, if the zoning was changed on those parcels, for some of the parcels, they would be in compliance as of the effective date of the ordinance. Others would not be and would be required to continue to clean up. The method that the department uses for basically following up when parties do not clean their properties is to file those cases in court. We typically, if they are working with us, we'll give them some extensions of time to do that. We would probably give them 30 to 60 days prior to informing them that we intend to file. After we intend to file, they have another 30 days prior to us actually filing in the court. So
90 days would be?
60 to 90 days would be the
60 to
time
90.
period.
Okay. Thank you. That answers 2 of my questions. Third question, the issue of the manufacturing application, I believe, has been withdrawn. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have not received an official request to withdraw the manufacturing application. As far as the department is concerned, it is still on our books.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ballard.
Is that all your questions, Supervisor Watson?
I believe that answers my questions.
Supervisor Sockwell, do you have any questions?
Nothing.
I have a few questions too, kind of follow up with Ms. Ballard. Obviously, I was the same way, a little bit appalled at the pictures that were given to us. This didn't happen overnight, and the idea that we are allowing somebody to get to that stage in an air park, I don't think there was a piece of airport equipment in that 2.5 acres. Whether we have 30-day notice, 60-day notice, hey, that's appalling that would be in there. I think these things need to be taken care of, and I don't know how we let it get that far and why we haven't done something about it, but it can't be good for the other residents there. This zoning use permit, Trying to find exactly, is this a one-year permit? How long is this permit?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this permit is actually indefinite. Now, the permit itself is strictly for the airfield and the taxiways, which are, the taxiways serve a joint purpose. The second purpose being to provide access to the lots through automobile traffic or any other kind of motorized traffic. The issue of storage for the maintenance equipment for the airfield came in as we were trying to work through some of the zoning issues that the air park had. Of course, one of their issues that they brought to our attention is the need to store equipment that's capable of maintaining the runways, such as road graders, et cetera. I think they also want to have water available. So they wanted to have a well and a water tank. We informed them that reinstating, they did at one point in time have a use permit for the airfield. They asked that it be rescinded. The board accommodated their request. I think they began to understand that that would cause them problems. It was causing them problems at the time and would continue to cause them problems into the future. So they're asking that that be reinstated. Having said that, storage of equipment for the airfield, there has to be a direct nexus to what they're storing and their need to have it available for maintenance of the airfield. I readily concur that the storage of sewer pipe does not meet that nexus under the situation in which their airfield operates.
What about the fencing? It looked like those fences should have been permitted fences. Hard to say what the height was, but it looked like they were well over 6 foot tall.
Mr. Chairman, I believe they are over 6 feet tall. The department responds to complaints, the department's code enforcement effort is complaint-based. So we would not be proactive necessarily in a situation. We would wait for a complaint. Most of this material was actually stored on BLM property, and although it didn't show up overnight, I agree with that, it did show up over a very short period of time, inasmuch apparently as the BLM, the lease that allowed that equipment to be there was relinquished or lost, I'm not sure which. So that material was moved from the BLM property to this property in a very short period of time. We have had an open violation case on this for some time. I think one of the factors that has delayed the case has been looking for a rezone. First attempt was one where the department worked with the individuals in the air park. We were not able to come to an agreement. Subsequently, a request for the manufacturing zone was submitted. I think it was there was a realization on the applicant's part that that was probably not the way to go, and that resulted in the application you have before you today.
So what we have in front of us today is not going to allow that 2.5 acres to stay the way it is. I mean, that's up to the courts, but this just continues the use of the airport.
Yeah, the board has two applications before you today, and yes, the one that's currently on the floor would only allow the continuation of the air park. It would allow storage associated directly with the maintenance of the air park. It would not allow the material, nor will the next item allow much of the material that you saw in the photographs to continue to be stored there.
I guess then I'll ask you to answer, maybe you know better, the gentleman and his brother who were opposed to this. I mean, they're in the air park business, right? I mean, that's what they're there for. Why would they be opposed to continuing the use they have now? I don't understand what I'm missing there.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my guess would be that concerns with the item that follows this, which is the rezone to the special development zone, is having some splash over into this item. I think there's also a concern that the allowance for storage of maintenance equipment will indeed allow the continuation of the storage that were in Mr. Krigg's photographs.
So is the storage now, do they have, I'm not familiar with the air park up there, but is there somebody who runs it, or is it just a bunch of folks that have 2.5 acres? And I mean, so is there a big piece of common property that would have storage on it, or is everybody just going to store their own maintenance stuff on their own piece of property? That's the problem now. Instead of having one location, we've got 200 lots or 100 lots with everybody storing stuff.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the Boulder Arrow Club actually manages the park, and they do have parcels that they own. Every property owner within the Triangle Air Park is a member of the club, and they do have several parcels that they own. Most of the items that are currently stored for maintenance of the airfield itself are stored on one of two properties. One of those properties had on it the water tank that you saw, the elevated water tank that you saw. The other one actually had the asphalt.
So will this allow more open storage on everybody's lot, the 200 acres, or just on those 3 or 4 lots that are common lots?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the Aero Club is going to have to specify which lots contain the storage. That's the purpose of the site plan review. And so they're going to have to identify which lots they're going to be storing the maintenance equipment on. We will question anything that we think is a little odd to us and ask for a justification.
So all the rest of the lots doesn't change their storage plan? Okay.
Not this item, no. Not the privately held lots.
Those are the only questions I had, I guess. Supervisor Watson, do you have anything else? Or?
I have nothing further.
Anybody like to hazard a guess on a motion?
Thank you. Chairman Johnson, it appears that we have over 2/3 of the property owners in that area that are in agreement with this item. But I have reservations on 2 items. Number one is the compliance issue, and when these other properties will be cleaned up. The other item is the manufacturing request. So what I'd like to do is continue this item until the next meeting, and I would like to have answers to both those questions. When would the properties come into compliance? And the other question would be the issue of the manufacturing request. Will it continue to go forward, or will it be dropped? So with that, my motion is to continue until the next meeting.
Would that be giving enough time for the people to come into compliance with the property?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, 30 days is a very short period of time to expect the property owners who have those properties to come into compliance. I doubt very much they can do so. It would seem to me, however, that they could give the board a schedule for compliance in which they laid out exactly when those properties would be cleared and on what kind of a program.
Right, and my motion is for that issue to be cleaned up is the schedule, not to be cleaned up in 30 days, but I want to know at what point will it be cleaned and come into compliance.
Okay.
And certainly, with these folks involved in the situation, they can come up with that by the next meeting.
I'll approve that motion.
And that could be in the form of a bond, too, to give us some kind of coverage. We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I will open item 55 for a public hearing, adoption Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-167 on a rezone. See, this is tied to 54. Before people, obviously you can all come up and address the same issue. You're all here today. If it's planning on being continued, if that might be a motion that Supervisor Watson's made, if you want to come to speak today or speak later, is that something you're considering, Supervisor Watson, is continuing this along with 54?
Yes, I'd like to continue both.
So I'll give you folks the option then, because it'll probably be continued over. You can speak today or come back. So, and if you're just in favor of it, if you just want to say you're in favor, you don't have to come forward, but it's your options. Ms. Kathy Taggett Hicks.
Honorable Chairman, Supervisors, I just wanted to make a few clarifying statements. I'm acting as the owner's agent in this matter. This is not a new matter at all. In fact, the county spent over a year working with these property owners to try to get resolution. Their answer was to submit for a manufacturing rezone, and at that point is when I was brought into the picture, because I believe manufacturing was way too aggressive. We suggested the fallback position of an RESD zone, which the county had also tried to guide this group into. The violation issues have always been there. Those particular lots that we saw pictures of used to have CMO zoning, commercial, manufacturing, open space zoning that allowed for that type of storage. Ms. Ballard was correct. Some of that storage came in from existing areas on BLM where they had to bring it in. There are issues that have to be cleaned up, and no one disputes that. The SDRE zoning will help them get that clean without giving them extended rights outside of their original air park use. The problem with the county's regulation is that there's nothing that works for air parks. This is one of two in the county. When I looked at the regulations, and to say that this is highly residential, that is not the main use. We asked for 3 items in the SDRE, which I thought was completely reasonable, would allow them to clean it up, but never took out the responsibility for them to make sure it was in compliance. The county always has their existing process. They're expected to do that, and they have up to court-granted compliance mandates for them. So that's not going to change. The county will continue to do that. But when I went through the entire issue with everyone, I saw 3 ways that we could help the situation and still get the violations cleaned up. So we proposed the SDRE. We withdrew the manufacturing zoning. Let me get on that. The application for that, there is a letter I have here. And if the SDRE zoning were approved with the ZUP as recommended, he was going to formally withdraw that manufacturing zoning. So it has not been formally withdrawn, but I can tell you it hasn't been to the P&Z Commission, nor has it been to you. So whether or not, the question of whether you can act on this, I think it's clear since it's never been to the P&Z that you could easily act on this item today without any conflict. Now let me jump back to the SDRE. I crafted something that did not put a burden on any other lots and which still allowed the county to clean these up, which is what everybody wanted. I asked for 3 items. The open space went from 1,000 to 2,000 square feet. Majority of these lots are 1 to 2 acre lots. The 2,000 square foot is the same as you can get for a 3 to 5 acre lot. So I did not see that as an issue at all. That was a slight expansion because airports have big things. They have big planes. They have wings that they keep. All these items are big, okay? So I thought that that was reasonable. We wanted to expand the use of the lot a little bit, so we shortened up some of the setbacks. That's a no-brainer issue at all. Okay, we just shortened it up. And then the third one that's going to help them clean better and result in something that's clean, tidy, and efficient and not too expensive is the cargo units. That is specifically allowed in manufacturing, as many as they want. So that is the one item I cherry-picked out of that ordinance to help them without granting them all of the egregious, abilities in manufacturing. So the county did recommend at one point that they would be permitted similar to residential. We disputed that because this is not primarily a residential area at all. In fact, Mr. Draney has a beautiful 10,000 square foot commercial building on his lot. That's not residential at all. He also has cargo units. So these lots have to be cleaned up no matter what. This does not remove that. It is common at the county, and Ms. Ballard would reiterate that we continually address some of these issues through a zoning modification, but this does not hand them the brass key that they can continue the way it's been. They do have to clean those up. This just allows a small way for them to move forward. the county would be clear what's appropriate and what's not, and I think that addresses all of the concerns here. So I just wanted you to know there's nothing, nefarious at all in this. It's an attempt to address something that's been going on a year, something which does not impose a burden on any surrounding property owners, and I would ask that you approve it.
I think the problem is they're coming before us today asking for help when they haven't taken care of the problems they had in the past and lived up to the zoning use. So I'm a little hard pressed to want to pass something on when they haven't lived up to what we had in the past. And they're not the only people, but thank you. Mr. Walt Stout, did I recall you, Walt?
My name is Walt Stout. I live at Triangle Air Park, 20496 North Mooney Drive, White Hills, Arizona. Good morning, supervisors, ladies. Little history here. Triangle Air Park was established approximately in 1977. I purchased property at Triangle Air Park in '89. I currently own 3 lots. At that time, there were 4 developed properties with 3 families living there. We've come a long way since '77 with limited funds, lots of hard work. We've made Triangle Air Park a place we all enjoy. We did not do this with taxpayers' funds, grants, or any other outside support. We have very limited emergency services. It's at least 45 minutes response time for fire and police. We do not have public water or sewer. We do not need these services. We maintain our own roads, taxiways, runways at no cost to the public. We need supplies, equipment, material, etc. to accomplish this. And of course, we need proper zoning in order to do it also. 1977, before my time, records show the air park applied for industrial zoning when originally formed. However, somehow we ended up with RE. In '89, when I purchased my property, everyone, including Mohave County, said, don't worry about it. You're so far out, they'll never get to you. I foolishly accepted that. In '93, Sidney Kaner and staff contacted property owners at Triangle Air Park and issued violations for outside storage. After negotiations with P&Z, it was agreed that P&Z would support a plan for property owners to designate a portion of their property to be CMO for storage. Out of 35 total properties, 27 signed on for the CMO on a portion of their property. After getting all necessary paperwork and plans together, P&Z says we will not support the CMO as a spot zoning. We dispose much of our valuable equipment and material to be in compliance. 95 to 2010, no issues. Support equipment, material, and personal property accumulates. 2011, P&Z has 11 property complaints, I believe, concerning outside storage. Others may be in violation but not reported. P&Z recommends we consider a zone change as it appears our airport operations and lifestyles are not compatible with our current RE zoning. 2012, through meetings and negotiations, P&Z suggests that if we apply to rezone a group of continuous lots facing the runways, it would be supported. After much thought and discussion with P&Z, M appears to be the only suitable zoning available to meet our needs. 8 continuous lots facing the runway, as suggested, applied for M zoning. Fees for rezone and plan to change were paid as required. Now P&Z will not recommend approval as submitted. They've added restrictions. We do not need Mohave County restrictions at Boulder City Aero Club controls all commercial Triangle property uses through the CCRs and the bylaws. We expected P&Z staff to support the M zoning as suggested in our meetings. Instead, our application was submitted and outlined to the Mohave County regulation, which was modified and picked apart until no longer resembles M zoning. This application is currently on hold. I intend to withdraw the N application once the current SDRE and ZUP are approved as filed and recommended for approval by the commissioners at the October 10th, 2012 commission meeting. There are no zone classification in Mohave County regulations that fits our unique needs as a private airport with residential housing for executive use by aviation-oriented members of the Boulder City Aero Club. Property owners at Triangle Air Park, property ownership at Triangle Air Park is restricted to members of the Boulder City Aero Club, and the Aero Club requires a strong interest and long-term involvement with aviation. Therefore, on October 2nd, 2012, we have engaged the services of KT Hicks Consulting. Kathy is our representative. Kathy and P&Z working together have done a great job developing a new SDRE zone which will benefit everyone. Kathy's background, expertise, knowledge, and skill are instrumental in developing this fair and reasonable resolution to our issues. This new ZUP and SUD rezone will allow Triangle Air Park to operate in compliance with regulations. It will allow property owners to have reasonable use of their property as an airport while having residential uses available. Zoning issues will be addressed and put to rest. Mohave County will benefit as the airport will be able to develop in an affordable manner while complying with the regulations. 24 out of 35 property owners are willing to accept this compromise and have applied for the SDRE rezone.
You're over your time, sir. Thank you. You can submit that in writing if you like, but you're over your time.
I'm sorry, sir?
You're over your time. There's a 3-minute limit on this. So you can submit that paperwork if you'd like to the board.
I'll do that.
Thank you. Mr. George Cummings?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Supervisors. In light of the action that you have taken on the previous matter, it seems to me the only thing that makes sense is to also move them so that they come up again together. I really don't have anything else, I think, to add to the presentation other than that's what seems to make sense, given what you've just done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Robert Brob Draney?
Thank you. I have nothing additional to add to Mr. Cummings' comments, except that, one, it was misstated that I have a 96 or about a 10,000 square foot commercial hangar. That's an absolute falsehood. I built that for my own private use, and I have experimental aircraft as well as one certified aircraft, so it's for my own private use. So I don't understand why that state was made, and I certainly resent it. Second is that the CCNRs already on the setbacks already state that it's 30 feet back from the taxiways. So I don't understand why there's a request even to change that, because the CCNRs are more restrictive, and the reason is the airplanes have long wings and they could extend out from the taxiways. So I don't understand why that was put in. And again, the other parts of it, we want to work with everyone to have a good, viable situation out at the Triangle Air Park. But what we don't want is junkyards. We want an air park, and that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jack Burns?
Good morning again. I think I'm a little bit confused because I thought the previous item had to do with strictly authorizing the use of the Triangle Air Park within a residential area. And there seemed to be more talk about items that were stored on the air parks and discussion of, aircraft operations. But be that as it may, I would like to again request that you approve our request to have more storage capability on our lots. I don't think anyone wants a junkyard, and of course, sometimes what one person's junk is another man's gold. But I would just like to say that it has been suggested that the only reason the rezoning request was made was because of violations that all the other, the lot owners that are asking for this request had made. Well, I personally haven't had any violations, and I'm requesting it. And I would request again that you approve this as the commissioners had recommended, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dan Dufresne?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to read something that I emailed to all of you, but you may not have gotten it yet. But at first, I'd like to reiterate what Jack said. I have no violations against my property either, but I'm for this rezone. Dear sirs, I have lived at Triangle for 22 years. When my wife and I first came here, we saw a myriad of car parts, building materials, old airplanes, and other interesting items on some of the lots at Triangle and knew this was a place for us. We had looked at other air park developments. There were many of them, but they were all too expensive for us. The folks at Triangle told us that the air park was developed so that people of meager means could afford to live, work, and fly here. We loved the way the property was being used. We told the people at Triangle we wanted to belong to their community. They welcomed us with open arms. The people here at Triangle came to escape the big city. They knew their lifestyle wasn't for everyone. That's why they came here, so as not to bother anybody with their chosen lifestyle. We came to what we thought was the middle of the desert. It isn't cheap living so far from town. Driving so far to work every day is very expensive and time-consuming, but we think it is worth the sacrifice to enjoy our unique and unconventional lifestyles. But the zoning was always a problem. The founders of Triangle tried to get light commercial or industrial zoning for Triangle, but could only get RE. They were having the same problems then that we're having now. There was no, nor is there now, any existing zoning for the intended uses. If government is here to serve the people, then it should, I believe it should create zoning according to the uses of the people. We should not have to force-fit our uses to match existing pigeonholes of zoning. Our community has had the same uses for its entire history. I have been an advocate of new zoning for 2 decades. Planning and zoning at the time has suggested CMO. Many of us applied for this zoning. Then it was denied because it was called spot zoning. Now we are applying for industrial zoning because it appears to be the only zoning in existence that might serve our needs. This is on hold because we contacted KTH Consulting and found that indeed a special zoning is available. We have applied for that, and it has been recommended by P&Z and approved by the commissioners. We have a member that is fighting us on the industrial zoning. We thought the SDRE zoning that KTH Consulting has recommended would be on an agreeable compromise. But this man and the few followers, 2 of which aren't even members, will not compromise on anything. This man and his followers do not live at Triangle and don't appear to have any intention of doing so. They all appear to be investors. I don't mean to denigrate investors. My wife is a school teacher and I'm a construction worker. But we are also investors. We buy, build, rehab, rent, and resell properties in Kingman. We've been doing so for 22 years. We think investors should be responsible.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up for 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bruce Barton?
My name Bruce Barton. I live at Triangle Air Park since 2005, and I hope you guys will approve it as the commissioners approved it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jim Robinson?
If the supervisors have it in their power, I wish they'd reconsider and move this forward. It's been a long time in the coming, and I think they're reasonable not unreasonable demands, very, very limited demands, and it just looks like it's a way that everybody can move forward. The whole area can move forward. The county can move forward. And like Ms. Ballard and Kathy said, it doesn't make this stuff all go away. It's going to be played, the rest of it will be played out with the county, but this allows a good part of the folks to have something solid to move forward with. And if it's still in your power, I just don't see any reason to move it back 30 days or move it back any length of time. It's something that needs to move forward, and this stuff is reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robert McBride.
Mr. Chairman, board members, again, I'm Robert McBride. I live at Triangle Air Park. I am a member of the board, and I am not a property owner. However, as a member of the board, I have an obligation to voice the majority of the members, of which 24 people put in for this zoning. And as Christine can verify, we had many meetings with them, and we weren't getting anywhere. Finally, we got Kathy on board, and she came up with the SED, or SD, excuse me. And it seemed like a viable thing, and we thought that that would satisfy all the members that were not happy. It did not do so. They're adamant about RE. Let's face it, gentlemen. RE is not in the best interest of that air park. It really should be commercial, and eventually it will be, because the housing that's going to be built all around it eventually will force us out. As for all the containers and the storage, the general age of our aircraft is somewhere in the 40s through the 50s. They need lots of parts, and that's what's in the containers. And if we could get more, we'd put more in there. It's the only viable way that we can actually keep flying, because these aircraft require maintenance. With the development of the highway and things that's coming in the future, right now, the decibel sounds from the highway are not the best, and even ridiculous with the gun range next door. As for RE, it's ludicrous. And unfortunately, I hate to see this board used for a vendetta. From all the videos and that you've seen here is directly at one person who had more to do with maintenance and the upkeep of this airport than any one individual. And it's his equipment that has been used to do this. He's helped practically everybody that ever moved in there, one way or another, with his equipment. So I apologize that I became a member through the back door, and so did these new people who do not live in or vote in Arizona. They want it to look like California or a military base where you got a bunch of enlisted people painting white rocks along the streets and etc. Please let it be Arizona. Let us have our freedom and pass this issue as was directed by the Board of Zoning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. John Altentop.
My name is John Altentop. I live in Triangle Air Park, and like I said before, I used to own an airport. We had nothing but good things to say about our commissioners at the time that were trying to help the airport any way they could at the time. And I recommend again, follow the commission's rules and vote for the change of zoning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lance Crick?
Thank you again, Supervisors. Lance Krieg, on behalf of Mark Krieg, Lot 33, Triangle Air Park. His residence, Prudhoe Bay, Alaska. And to say that I would personally take exception to some of the statements preceding would be an understatement. This has nothing to do about a vendetta. I've been here through this process that many of these gentlemen speak of. Most of these guys were my friends, or I consider them still my friends. I have nothing personal aimed at these people. My brother has nothing personal aimed at these people. When I came to Triangle Air Park, I saw the same accumulation of stuff that many of these people saw, maybe not quite as many years ago. But what I also saw was the fact that it was coming in on the back of a truck at approximately 1 to 3 truckloads per week and going over and being unloaded in some of the areas that you saw. And you know, that was adding up, and then when the BLM took action and all that stuff came over, that was the straw that broke the back. And I think you, as reasonable people, could realize why. Let me share with you something. That septic tank that was in the picture was in the middle of the taxiway that my brother would utilize. It's a dead end where his lot is. There was gravel from septic operations there spewing about out in the taxiway. This isn't neighborly or friendly, and it has nothing to do with vendetta. It has the simple fact of enough being enough. And I'd just like to state that, you know, I've tried to sort through this and understand this law a little bit, this ordinance, and I just see that their proposals are just contrary to the very basic structure of the law or the ordinance. I see whenever SD zone is granted, it's talking about permits and it's going to be submitted, and they want unlimited storage containers, no permits. You know, we're not the hard line here. We, in our written outline, I think, very eloquently pointed out to you that we are all for some change. We have no problem with it. It's in the written document submitted before you from my brother, Mark Craig. Again, I don't mean to make this personal. I'm sorry I have to bring out the hard truth in pictures, and that's all I did. They're not fictional. They weren't edited. They were simply collected and presented to you with what we are dealing with up there at Triangle Air Park, which is nothing new. This has been before you, as I understand, many times, or at least before. And I think it's time that we deal with this now. And I appreciate your approach, and I appreciate Miss Kathy's approach and her submittal. But we're not totally on board with it yet. There's some fine-tuning that needs to be discussed if we're going to go that route. But I totally agree. If I saw some effort up there being made, truckloads going out of this air park, instead of talk in here at these meetings and at every meeting before, I would be much more convinced that we're going to actually be able to recognize some change. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Anybody else who'd like to address the board? If not, I will close the public hearing. Do we have a motion for discussion, or?
Make a motion to continue this item until the next meeting for clarification again of the compliance date and the issue of manufacturing.
A second?
Second the motion.
We have a second. I have a question of Ms. Ballard. It's been stated that, maybe I'm hearing it wrong, about kind of like this is a closed community where they control who buys property. That's not true, is it? I mean, if somebody has their 2.5 acres or whatever they have, they can sell to anybody they want, right?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it is my understanding that the CCNRs state that the owners of property in the Aero Club or in the Triangle Air Park have to be members of the Aero Club. Now, the county does not enforce the CCNRs, it's enforced by the property owners themselves. But that is my understanding.
Right, just like any homeowners, they can take them to court if they don't pay their dues or whatever they have to pay. But you can sell to anybody you want. It's not like a 2/3 vote to let somebody into there.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, it is the county, yes, that's how we would look at it.
Right.
Anybody is eligible to purchase in that subdivision. I have to say, I do not think that that's how the owners view it, and I don't think that's how their CCNRs view it.
All right, then, right now, what is the square footage of hangars they can build? I mean, 'cause I'm just familiar with, air parks and smaller ones like Havasu, and those where guys go out there and buy a space, and usually they fill it completely with their hangar to begin with, so everything's inside the hangar. They're not, I don't see open storage anyplace else. And when we're talking about this, we're talking about this was done in the 70s. In the 70s, we didn't even have zoning. They didn't come to us for permits out then. So until, was it 2000 when we finally did we took everybody in to do the permitting?
And Mr. Chairman, members of the board, actually structures from the county, built in the county, have required permits since 1968. It wasn't until I believe 2007 that we required building permits that demonstrated compliance with the adopted building codes in that particular area.
Right.
We do not govern the size of their hangars. What is regulated by our ordinance is the amount of lot coverage on the individual lots. And so, as far as homes and outbuildings and including hangars, garages, et cetera, this area with lots that are typically from 1 to 2 acres in size, 20% of the lot area can be covered by structures.
20%. All right. Do we have any zoning that allows for more coverage than 20% of your property?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that lot coverage is governed not by individual districts, but is a generally applicable standard. What Triangle Air Park is, how they are proposing their solution to this is through a special development zone, whereby they're recommending, I think, a 45% lot coverage. So they're actually recommending that this special development zone amend that limitation.
Right, but the difference there is, I mean, I don't have a problem with if you build a hangar, and because if you go out to the Kingman Air Park, I'm guessing I haven't been out there, but in a long time, but I'm familiar with Havasu, everything is enclosed. They're looking more for open lot storage, and I'm not that somebody couldn't build, but if we give them the 35 or 40%, doesn't mean they're going to build a hangar. It means you can have open lot storage if they're that.
They're actually also suggesting allowing more coverage.
All right, well, that's the only questions I had. We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll take a quick 5-minute break, allow those people to get out of here who want to leave.
5-minute stand-up break? Thank you.
call the meeting back to order. Was there a reconsideration on 54 and 55? No?
No.
Hearing none, we'll go to 56 then. I'll open the public hearing, adoption Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-168, zoning use permit. Commission recommended approval by unanimous vote. I have no one signed up. Is there anyone here who wishes to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 57 is the public hearing, which I will open. Adoption Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-169, rescind and cause the property to revert from MX 36A, heavy manufacturing, 36-acre minimum lot size zoning to its former zoning classification of AR 8A. Commission
Motion.
recommended. No one's here to speak. Motion. Do we have a motion then?
Motion to approve the rescission.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item number 58, I'll open the public hearing. Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-170, rescission of Board of Supervisors Resolution 209-127. Commission recommended rescission by unanimous vote. I have no one signed up. Anyone care to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Is there a motion for rescission?
Motion for rescission.
Second.
A motion and a second, no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, motion carries. Item number 59 is open public hearing, which I will do. Board of Supervisors Resolution 2012-171, rescission of an abandonment of Castle Rock Road. Commission recommended rescission by unanimous vote. I have no one signed up. Does anybody here wish to address the board? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Do we have a motion?
Motion for rescission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, motion carries. Regular agenda. Item number 60, discussion possible action in the matter of a lien placed on the property of Anita Warren. The Mohave County Department of Public Health, Environmental Health is requesting the Board of Supervisors to move to either set a public hearing for the Board of Supervisors to hear and decide on this matter at the next regularly scheduled meeting, or delegate to the Environmental Health Division the task of arranging and conducting an administrative hearing in this matter with the hearing officer's written decision to be approved, revised, or rejected by the Board of Supervisors. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Motion for discussion.
Second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this item? Is everybody familiar with it? Or does anybody have the pleasure of, it doesn't give away our authority because it still comes back to us. It's just this one issue.
Right.
Or one item. We have nobody here that wants to speak on it. Do I have a motion from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we delegate to the Environmental Health Division the task of arranging and conducting an administration hearing on this matter with the hearing officer's written decision to be approved, revised, or rejected by the board.
And I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 61 has been pulled. Item number 62 is discussion possible action to approve the Mohave County Board of Supervisors 2013 meeting calendar. We have the calendar in front of us. Supervisor Watson, did you have some questions on this?
Motion for discussion.
Second.
Yes, just wanted to make sure that we got on the calendar Wednesday, January 2nd, for the possible oath of office for our newly elected people, and the possibility of scheduling a special meeting of the board for that afternoon. In thinking that it might be the best to get the oath of office done as soon as we possibly can and seat the newly elected people.
We have a meeting set for the 7th. The 1st is obviously a holiday. They do their swearing in. We're not doing any regular work. I mean, there's no agenda we could even put together.
Well, here's the question. You have the end of Manager Walker's contract December 31st.
Right.
Do you want to then to go to January the 7th until you have a discussion on the direction in which you're going to go? Or do we want to make sure that we're getting done as soon as possible the oath of office and any discussion we have on interim county manager or those items that might be on that agenda?
I just soon go to, I just soon wait the 7th and try to put together a meeting that quick, because I don't think we're going to be able to get anything on the agenda. I imagine the first meeting will be, well, obviously, whatever somebody submits for it, along with the county staffing. The second, I don't know if there's going to be anything put on it. We won't have time to get staff to give us recommendations. I mean, just
Bill, do they have to wait 72 hours notice? Is there 72-hour notice to have a meeting?
You have to give notice under the open meeting law. It's 48 hours.
That's
And,
what I thought.
I might let you know that the swearing in is just a formality.
Right.
The actual filing of the oath of office is what makes them official.
Okay.
I have no problem just waiting until the 7th instead of trying to get something in.
Well, it certainly appears then that you may prevail.
Were there any other dates you had in there?
Chairman Johnson, excuse me, our deadline for the meeting on the 7th would be the 27th of December, if that plays in.
Would be the deadline for items to go on?
Yeah.
It would be my preference to have that meeting on the 2nd to, for the oath of office and to have a regular meeting for the purpose of talking about our interim manager. It appears that I'm going to fail for lack of second, so.
Any other dates you were?
No, I just wanted to get business.
Well, if you wanna try to do it then, I'll make a motion, or I'll second your motion.
Thank you.
We get a motion now.
I don't have a dog in that fight, you know, so
Thank you.
My question is, what is this agenda going to entail? We got to put an agenda together, we got staffing. I guess from Mr. Ekstrom's point of view, we have to put an agenda together now. The people that can put items on the agenda are obviously the sitting elected officials. The second, we've got holidays preceding that where we can't get the 48-hour notice with anybody who's in office. Are we going to have a one-item agenda that says doing something with the county manager? I mean, this is, because I guess, I don't think you've been through it before, but, and obviously the new five-member board will make their own decisions, but if you're going for a county manager and you're going to do a search, you have to come up with criteria and put it out. It's a 6-month process. If you're going to decide to appoint somebody that's already in here, then you've got to, have those people put their stuff forward. So I don't see the difference in the five. Personally, I just don't see the difference with it. That was my point.
The purpose of my bringing this forward is to get it done as soon as possible, so there'll be no confusion as to what we're going to do. As far as interim county manager or any other business that we need to attend to on that day, if we can have the oath of office, great. But as I understand it from Attorney Ekstrom, that those that are elected are on January 1, effective date. So the oath is actually secondary. So just my intent was to have the meeting of the first possible date possible. Now, the only difference between having it on the 2nd and having it on the 7th are 2 working days. That's Thursday and Friday. Necessary to have the 2 additional days to put the agenda together?
I would think, well, in my opinion, that gives those people with 24-hour notice. I mean, it's short, but at least they have, what's the calendar date here for January. That would give the second and third, if they had items that they would like to place. Well, no, wouldn't either. Just give us the second, wouldn't it, to give something as a late ad. And then you want to watch what you're adding as late, so it doesn't look like you're trying to do something, sneak something by. At least the second, they would have a date to put something on that they were interested in.
Okay, I see the direction of what you're trying to come from.
So that we kind of had their input, and And obviously, once they get elected, they've got to get offices and everything else, so
Well,
they're.
we have one of the possible electeds in the audience. Can we have some input from her?
Sure.
Hello, Chairman, Supervisors, Hildy Angus, District 2. From my vantage point, which is way out there, I would like to do it as soon as possible. Sworn in on the 2nd. I'd like to have a meeting because I need some information here. As far as I can tell, on December 31st, there'll be no county manager sitting there. So we'll be without anybody. True?
Well, per se, that we won't be paying anybody as of December 31st at midnight, but as much as the county manager and the Board of Supervisors would like to think we run the county, the department heads actually take care of the day-to-day business, and they work just fine, and then the days that we're off, so it's not like the train won't run on track.
Well, I personally would like to see that meeting as soon as possible with the legal amount of notification you need to get. That's where I would like. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, well, we have a motion, and you seconded it, Supervisor Sockwell?
Seconded in the motion. Whatever you want to do, I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item number 63, discussion possible action, direct staff to prepare an overall briefing of county-run operations for newly elected officials in December of 2012. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Motion for discussion.
Second.
A motion and a second. I put this on. We have a lot of new officials coming in onto the Board of Supervisors. We also have new people coming into the state legislature and other departments. I thought it might be good if just staffing, and it wouldn't be, I mean, the public is obviously going to attend and sit in the audience. It's not a question and answer from the public, and then maybe if there is an interest by the elected officials where, you know, public, we wouldn't allow staff to give them any 3-hour dissertation. They could just give them
Right.
a synopsis of what their department does, and so they had a little bit of a heads up before they take off. It's kind of like what you're talking about with having a meeting. If you're having a meeting and these people have no idea, you know, exactly how the county's run, this might be a chance to at least get some ideas, or at least put a name with a face. That was my whole thing, and I thought maybe if there's something we want to do, we could set a few dates, or, you know, let staff set a few dates, and if there's no interest, then we don't have to do it.
Well, actually, Chairman Johnson, I'd like to thank you for putting this on the agenda, and I'll make I believe I have a motion for discussion. Sure. Actually, I've put together, with the help of several people, some ideas, and I would really like to take this opportunity for all the newly elected to come in and get a complete orientation of not only what our staff does, its responsibilities, but also tour buildings, go to locations, see foundation, block, and mortar. And so it might entail as much as 1 to 7 days in order to put the entirety together. A suggestion I've put together as on day one, possibly we could tour the administration building, have an overview by Deputy County Manager Susie Duranzo concerning health, community services, elections, finance, procurement, human resources, recorder, treasurer, school superintendent, assessor, information technology, civil attorney, clerk of the board, and administration. On day two, the host for that day may be, if you would like, Deputy County Manager Dana Levesque, a tour of the Kingman Law offices, the Sheriff's Building, Public Defender, Legal Defender, Courthouse, Sheriff's Buildings, County Attorney, Negus Building, Probation, and the new jail. And I have several more days kind of sketched out here, but I'm amenable to changing this or adding anything that staff needs that would be pertinent. I know it may be costly, and what I may like to entertain on that is if there were a cost associated to a district, such as District Number 1, if we were to go as far as touring facilities in the northern part of my district, which would be the Colorado Strip, that those costs be associated by my travel budget. If they were to be associated with District Number 2, the cost would be associated to that district, and likewise District 3. I can't imagine those costs for Districts 2 and 3 being hardly very much money. The largest cost would be to transport people in District 1 to view many of the buildings and practices that we run over the 62% of Mohave County that's in District 1. So.
How are you paying for 4 and 5? Is that where you're getting into my District 3 money?
You bet.
Yeah, that's a no on that one. I can guarantee you there.
I can't imagine that there would be a great deal of cost associated with touring facilities in Lake Havasu City or Bullhead City.
I think, you know, what you brought up is good. I think the problem we're going to have is December with vacations where people not being around. And I think that cost and time part might be a lot, and I don't know. I mean, you've got quite a few days. That's a lot of commitment on their part. I mean, I hate to put something together if, you know, one person shows up or two people.
Well, I think it would only work if basically the 3 new folks from Board of Supervisors can commit to the 5 to 7 days that it might take to do the entirety. And the sooner the better. I don't know that it needs to wait until December. We're going to know the answers to the questions tomorrow night.
Would that be something maybe we could just continue this to the January 3rd meeting to have staff research it and come back with some, that way they could contact after the, you know, newly elected officials, because you would have, obviously you're going to have one new state legislature that might want to, you know, participate, or, you know, and then the other people that they come back to this January, because it's not going to make much difference between now and December 3rd anyway for our meeting, right? That way they could contact them and say, yeah.
Yeah, we have one in the audience. If I'd like to get her opinion on what she would like to, the essence of time.
Again, and I think I speak for the other people who will be the elected officials, that we would like to, as soon as possible, do what Supervisor Watson suggests. You know, the more information we can get before we start in January, the better, as far as we're concerned.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we have an eager bunch of newly elected folks, and they'd like to be educated as soon as possible. So if we could leave it open for staff to put it together as soon as possible, check with the newly elected, and schedule it from there.
Now, the only thing would be, because I can guarantee you I'm not giving up my budget for this, so that's not a possibility.
If it entertains such a great cost out of your budget, I'll handle it personally out of my wallet. How's that?
All right, that's fine if you're going to handle it, because I know the cost isn't budgeted anywhere, and with the county, because you have county time too, Mr. Timko, is that correct? With staffing time and stuff. I mean, is there? I guess kind of tough for Manager Hendricks to figure out. I mean.
Mr. Chairman, basically your cost for your staff's already paid for. What we would be talking about is transportation costs. If there's any overnight stay, and that would be up in Supervisor Watson's area, there'd be cost for meals. So the cost, you know, like I mentioned, your staff time is already budgeted and paid for. It would be taking whatever time away from their day-to-day activity, obviously. But you know, we're not talking a tremendous amount of elected officials. We're probably talking a handful, less than half a dozen, that are going to be taking a trip. We're going to be paying for 1, possibly 2 meals a day. And then conceivably we could take one of the motor pool larger vehicles like the vans and accommodate the travel that way. So it's certainly doable if you want to consider that, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Does this, are we talking just newly elected?
Anyone could attend, I suppose.
Well, these are going to have to be posted dates, are they not?
Yes,
on
Mr.
account of a
Chairman, we
quorum?
have to work with the county attorney's office to make sure that it's all properly posted, I would assume. Bill?
Mr. Chairman, Mike, we discussed that at a staff level. I had some concerns about open meeting law issues, particularly if they did it in January. You give a notice of a meeting on the road, it's kind of hard for the public to follow you. Before they take office, once we get people elected, I can talk to them about it, but I kind of discourage the majority of the board from getting together and talking about things, even though they're not in office yet.
Mr. Ekstrom,
You can take a tour
I certainly would not
and not take any legal action.
be appealing to any of those members that were truly elected for any decisions. This action is purely for education and for them to be able to have the ability to see different structures, different buildings, and listen to presentations by our staff and our directors. Certainly, I can see the need in posting these meetings, but I see it as a little bit overreaching as to hesitate until January to do this.
I think what he's saying is, my thing was like, everybody talked to him, you're saying like a hands-on, go out so they can see the buildings, but I think and Bill, jump in if I'm wrong, you're saying if we say, okay, we're doing a jail tour, then the public's invited to go along with them, because we can't say, well, it's only for the 3 new members, because it would be a quorum inside now. I think that's what he's saying. Is that what you're saying, Bill?
It is, Mr. Chairman. I just want to avoid all appearances of impropriety.
Right.
And certainly, I don't want to appear impropriety.
I know that wasn't your intention.
Either. And we could certainly put on the agenda the entire schedule. And if anyone from the audience or general public that would like to attend, I would imagine that they could make their own travel arrangements and attend if they'd like. But certainly, if we're going to have a presentation such as Mr. Temko making a presentation on finance, there would certainly be no reason in the world why we couldn't have people in the audience attend for their own education. So we could agendize each and every day if we'd like. And I just don't see it as a problem. I see it as an opportunity to reach out to our newly elected folks and give them a sound basis from which they can make judgment later on in their career.
Is there a problem with staffing, with, just like we're saying, and I don't know, I don't think there's going to be a tremendous amount of rush from the public to tag along, but let's say 10 people show up, do we need to check with like the sheriff's office to make sure they're going to be allowing people in, or the other offices? Bill, you probably know.
Mr. Chairman, my primary concern is after they've taken office.
Right.
And certainly on a trip like this, you would set some parameters that no legal action will be taken or legal matters will be discussed, and make a record of that. You ought to be okay. Anytime after they take office, I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
And I think the feeling I'm picking up is they want to do it as soon as they can, so.
Yes, they'd like to do it as soon as possible, and it's between the time of the election and the time they take office. So I think it's the appropriate time that we reach out and try to make sure that these new folks have all the information possible. We educate them and show them as much as we possibly can. I think it's an excellent opportunity.
Only further discussion I would have, that we want to just give this to the county managers or deputy county managers to do, and then if for some reason, we won't know until tomorrow who's elected, but if there's only a few people that want to do it, they just make a decision. And if we have a lot of people, that's great. If we only have one person that wants to do it, then we don't, not that one person's time wouldn't be valuable. We're not going to tie up the entire county for one person on a field trip. So we just make the motion then to have deputy managers contact them, and along with your ideas of.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, members of the board.
Please.
The deputy county managers, in anticipation of your items, Chairman Johnson, have scheduled a meeting tomorrow to start discussing and planning for whatever was decided on today, and whether that be orientation in a forum session, or like Supervisor Watson suggested, to go ahead and do a more hands-on approach. So staff is prepared to start moving forward and planning, and if we do come across any hitches or any, like I like to say, deal killers, we can certainly bring that forward and discuss that at that time.
And I would think even with, besides our legislatures, you have newly elected people in the city of Havasu. I'm not sure they'd care to tour the county, but they might give them an idea of what the county does, or the other cities, or, you know, any elected official to give them a better idea of what we go through. So, do we have any kind of a motion that you've written down?
I believe it was my motion for discussion, and so I would like to make a motion for, to approve in directing staff to prepare an overall briefing of county-run operations to the newly elected officials, including a hands-on tour of facilities and briefings by each division or whatever appropriate agency may need to be the presenter. Is that broad enough?
It sounds good, and to be set up with county staff.
Yes, be set up with
Managers.
Deputy County Manager Mike Hendricks.
Do we have a second, Supervisor Stockwell?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 We're adjourned.
And thank you very much.